Okay, so we're stuck between two candidates. One who perhaps is a lot more vocal in their pro-choice stance, and one who has done and said things that are very pro-choice, but has also done and said things that are pro-life. So we have kind of that. So I mean, we've talked about the economy. What other issues are people really kind of concerned about right now? Economy, immigration.
The one issue that a lot of people are worried about, what they should stop being worrying about, and they will stop being worried about after I say this. Hopefully, many people say things like, "Well, sure, everything you're saying about Trump's moral failings or whatever are true, but this election is so important. It might be the last election of my lifetime. It's the whole republic's on the line here. The whole system collapses if Kamala becomes president." No, 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 no.
Well,
That's not true.
I might
There's
die
there's zero,
on
literally
November
zero,
6th.
there's literally zero reason. Yeah,
Which
okay.
case,
Other than that,
Other than your death.
there's zero reason to think that Kamala Harris is somehow an existential threat to the Republican order of this country, such that if you don't vote for Trump and he's not elected, then all of our rights are out the window and the churches will be shuttered. It's so stupid. It's so not true.
Yeah.
In fact, not only is it not true, but it's probably the opposite. So
my
that
biggest,
shouldn't be a consideration that you think this is the last election or anything nonsense like that. It's
Right.
so not true.
the bigger thing about with particularly about the Trump who wins the presidency is that there's a lot of down ballot races right now, which are in the Senate, which actually have a bigger impact on the policy making of this country, that will swing one way or the other based on down ballot voting. Because a lot of states still have straight ticket voting, where you literally check a box Republican, and that means you vote for all the Republicans. We don't have that in Connecticut, and so that's. So I would say that the presidency is still like important, because if it does go one way or the other, that probably will determine the outlook for the Congress. I will say one thing that's just that both parties have been terrible at, even though one party, I mean, the Republican Party has said that we have to get government spending under control and we have to balance the budget. The Democrats say we have to balance the budget, and they say we have to do that by increasing taxes. But at the end of the day, no party is saying what needs to be done on the economic side, which is severe austerity measures across the board. And no one wants to talk about it because it's painful. But we've gotten ourselves into a situation now, which is something which we're not there yet, because U.S. still is a petrodollar, it still is a very powerful economy. We're still the largest economy in the world. We still have the #1 currency in the world.
Are we the largest economy in the world?
We are. Yeah, we're still bigger than China.
Bigger than China? Are we bigger than China? Okay.
Oh, by a lot, by far. And our GDP per capita is like way bigger than China. We're still one of the top countries on GDP per capita, which is crazy because we have 340 million people.
Yeah.
So, we're a very strong economy. So I don't want to discount that. We're not like Argentina, but there will be a time when there will have to be draconian austerity measures in this country, and that's at a time probably, and it's going to be in the future. It will be. I don't know when, but it will be, and it will be at a very bad time. And so we as a country have to decide, and this is also gets down to a life issue, because the economy does affect people's lives, whether we like it or not. We have to decide if are we going to start tightening our belt now or when it's worse, because we actually have a good economy right now. We are still the petrodollar. We still have the best innovation in the world. We still have one of the biggest manufacturing economies in the world, even though it's like not as big as China, but it's still a very large manufacturing economy. We have all these things now, and I'm worried that 50 years down the line, hopefully I'll still be alive, that those things won't be the case, and then we'll have to go through austerity. And so that's the big thing, is are we willing to start tightening the belt now? Major Medicare reform, major Social Security reform.
Yeah, good luck with
Unfortunately,
that.
the answer to that question is no, we're not willing to do that.
We're not willing to do it.
We're not willing to do
so
it now,
then,
because the last person that he wanted to do it was Paul Ryan, and nobody's heard from him since.
And we're still going to accrue $2 trillion every year of new debt.
Right.
Yeah.
And eventually it's not going to work.
And
It probably could work for another 20 years, to be honest. It probably can work for another 20 years.
Well, I mean, the Democratic Party has been known for handouts and big government spending, right? Unfortunately, the Republicans have not shown really much restraint in that either. So, although typically they profess it, whether or not they do it is
I mean, each administration has been worse on spending than the last. I mean, Trump was worse than Obama.
Because it's easy,
worse than Trump.
And it's easy to spend money. Right, it's easy to spend money.
It's
like
money.
you rack up a credit card that then you hand to, like, I spend a bunch of money and then I send the bill to you. And it's like, and
really to your grandchildren, but yeah.
But that's the thing, is that we're not yet paying for it.
We're not.
And at some point it will come due. But
the frustrating thing is we actually can. Right. So the problem with it is that this is probably too economic-y, but like it's just an increase or a decrease in the money supply, right? Like when you tax, you're just decreasing the money supply because it's all just numbers anyway. It's not like the government's like literally printing money, right? Like
it's not a thing.
The taxation just reduces the money supply, but you can't just reduce the money supply by taxation. You actually have to reduce the money supply by stopping the spending.
Yes.
And that's just like, and it's all just numbers, and that's why this like modern monetary theory is like, well, it's all just numbers, and it just accrues, and it just accrues and accrues, and no,
This is
you
what
never
people
have to
came
pay.
for. It's modern monetary theory commentary.
Right.
This is why the people come.
That's I'll tell you. It's riveting. You sit on the edge of your seat.
No,
but it's a real issue.
It's a real issue, and I think and I think
But that's and the hard thing about that is that it has to be a total change of worldview and a change of virtue, really.
Yeah,
because
for
you have
sure.
to have the virtue as a nation to say prosperity is going to look a little different in the future, and it's not going to look like I'm going to get everything I possibly want. And I think a symptom of that has been like Biden's idea of trying to cancel the debt of all these college students, because there's this view that now I can rack up $100,000 in debt and the government will just take care of it, so I get a free ride, or whatever, a free ride. It's the handout mentality, but that's a mental shift of saying, no, I'm going to be responsible for the debt I take on. I'm going to be responsible for, for my own well-being.
Yeah, and I think we have a moral obligation. And talk about moral obligation, like we want people to have agency over their lives, like because we have free will, and we need to enable that free will and have agency over lives. When you start having handouts and welfare programs, it traps people, it imprisons people, just like how people might get imprisoned by their sin. I'm not saying it's equivalent, but it's similar because you get attached to it, and it's hard to give it up.
Very much so. Very much so.